Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Bader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hi friends, Jason here. In this episode, I had the opportunity to catch up with Paul Neustadt, president of Neuco, Inc. Neuco is a redistributor of HVAC and refrigeration parts based in the Chicago area. They're a long-standing family business with a rich history of entrepreneurship. What really sets this company apart is their innovation strategies, particularly around technology in the distribution center. Trust me, they're easily one of the most advanced privately held organizations I've run across in my consulting career. Paul speaks about how this investment is all centered around helping their customers become more efficient. I enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you will too. This episode of Distribution Talk is sponsored by InSequel Distribution Software. InSequel is a fully functional distribution-based software package. I only recommend software packages that were purpose-built to serve distribution, and these folks do it very well at a price point many smaller distributors can afford. Economy doesn't mean compromise. This company is on the cutting edge of distribution-friendly applications like VMI on mobile devices, mobile signature capture, mobile CRM, warehouse management software, and e-commerce development. If you're ready to step up to a fully loaded, scalable distribution package at an affordable price, look no further than InSequel Distribution Software at www.insequel.com. That's INXSQL.com. Paul, thank you so much for coming on Distribution Talk. Always a pleasure to hear your voice.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate the opportunity.
Fantastic. Well, as you know, we like to start out with a little history lesson. How did you get involved with distribution, and what were some of the big events that occurred? You know, you've been in this a while, I suspect.
I'm what I referred to as a wily veteran.
Oh, there you go.
Right?
Yeah.
We've got scars to prove them. So, anticipation of this, I was thinking about how did I get into this and when was the start? And the answer I came up with is, when was I not involved in my dad's business? So I would go back to probably 73, 74. Wow. And I am one of 8 kids. So when my dad would he would go into the office on a weekend or something, and my mom always said, you got to take 1 or 2 kids with you and get them out of the house. So he would bring us in and he would, put us to work and doing what, a lot of people when they get into this business do, which is, sweeping the floor and doing things that kids can do. But after that, it ends up that I liked working with my dad. And maybe as a kid, you got to spend more time with him because you were at work. So that is really how I started. You would work breaks and that type of thing, like a lot of people. I went full-time in 1980 when I graduated from college. So.
Gotcha. Now, Paul, were you always in that HVAC business, or did the business start out some other way, or?
Our family has been in business consistently since 1907. So
okay.
the Neustadts have done quite a few different things. My grandfather had Neustadt Hay Grain and Feed.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
It's really cool because we have pictures of the Neustadt buckboard being pulled by the mules through the streets of Chicago. So that's kind of cool.
That's absolutely cool. Yeah.
And then from there, the family transitioned to Neustadt Fuel and Supply. We delivered fuel oil, and that transitioned into Neuco, and that would have been in the late 50s, early 60s that my father and his 2 brothers had seen the writing on the wall when natural gas got brought into Chicago. So they had anticipated that people are going to go with natural gas instead of fuel oil, and you don't have to depend on somebody driving up in a truck for it. So they said, okay, what are we going to do? And that we started Neuco, which is our family name, NEU, with like a new company. So that's how the spelling came out. And at that point, we were a traditional distributor. So the model that we are under now with Neuco as a master distributor, I would say happened in probably 1982 or 1983.
Just right after you joined full time, basically.
Correct. It was my cousin Bill, my cousin Joe, and I went to Dad. And at that point, his 2 brothers they had gotten out of the business in the 70s. But then we went to Dad and said, this is what we are good at. It just seemed natural for us to do. So we went into what is point it was termed a redistributor, or in other industries, it's called a master distributor.
Right.
So that's when we made that change.
Well, it's interesting that really going back to kind of the fuel oil business, really for you all to kind of stay in that heating, I guess, climate control type of thought process or environment. That's kind of fascinating how that leap met, how you moved into that.
I think it's interesting. And even today, our business, we do refrigeration, we do cooling, but
right,
kind of our sweet spot is heating. That's kind of what we do. And one other thing that people have said to the management today, like, God, you guys are doing so great. And I step back and look at my grandfather, my father, and the leaps that they had to take to completely change what they were doing. I look at that and go, ooh, those guys had some confidence in themselves and they had ability. So sometimes you kind of got to do a reality check and then say, that's the real stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You can definitely break your arm, patting yourself on the back saying, that we're doing really well. And then all of a sudden you kind of step back and you look at, I do the same thing with my father, looking back at my dad, some of the risks he took going all in on this business. And, I remember at a young age hearing the word bankruptcy, that was a real possibility. And so I would agree. And I'm glad you brought that up, that you have to step back and look at those who came before you and say, they took some risks.
Absolutely.
And ask yourself the question, am I able to do that same thing, and where do I fit in that?
Yep. I agree completely. Yep.
Yeah. You made this transition from that traditional wholesale distributor over to a redistributor or master distributor. And what were some of the, again, you were really instrumental in that conversion. What attracted you to doing that instead of staying in that traditional, service of contractor position?
There was a specific instances, and it's funny, through your career there are certain things you can just remember like they were yesterday, but there's a lot of distributors who, I'll call it, dabble in redistribution. They do have a friendly deal with the competitor locally to them. So we were beyond that, but we weren't where we are today. And we had some contractors would still come in to our counter. And I remember a day that this contractor came into our counter, and then a good distributor customer came into our counter and was like, what are you doing here? I would have gotten that for you. And I'm behind the counter going, wow, this is uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm in a bad position here. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's when we soon after that went to Dad and said, we need to kind of put a line in the sand and go, here's what we are, here's what we're not. And it was very interesting when we did it, when we called up distributors local to us and said, okay, here's where we're going. We sent them a letter, then we called them and said, here's where we're going. And if that contractor comes in, we are going to call you and get a purchase order for that. We will help them out. We'll get everything done, no pricing. And the first time that a contractor did that, and I called the distributor up and said, okay, here where we are. And he said, so you're telling me that I'm going to make 20%. I don't have to do anything but give you a PO and they're going to walk out with the part. I said, yep. And that was the start. And you have to get credibility.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was just thinking, is that really it's an integrity thing, that you have to draw that line in the sand. You have to make sure you don't deviate. No. It could be attractive to say, well, heck, I'm going to make, I'm doubling up on this deal.
Right.
That could be a quick deal, but it's really, you're looking at the long-term play. It's not that short-term quick hit. It's, how do I build this so that I can serve many, I can do this many times versus the one time and get my fingers caught in the cookie jar and it's over at that point. Absolutely.
Once you do that, no, I agree. So it was very interesting and it really took off. And a couple other things happened that I don't know that when we did them, we really anticipated it, but also at the time in the 80s, there were manufacturers who their customer service portion of their business, they were looking at trimming So I'll give you an example. If somebody needed at that point, and this is before you have all the tools that we have today, but somebody
Mhm.
needed a instruction manual out of a part, they would call the customer service at the manufacturer. They would get it. They would either copy it and put it in the mail because at the point we didn't even have fax
Sure.
machines, right?
Right.
And take care of it. Well, they were cutting back on that. So we ended up filling that slot that they could get us and they could get us much more quickly and we would take care of it for them. So now you would call it stickiness on your website. It was almost that,
Yeah.
it's what attracted the customer to come back to you. And when he did all these other things, he would order parts as well. So
Gotcha. Okay. So early on, when you made that line in the sand and when you started to, do this, how many manufacturer relationships or how many manufacturers were you really redistributing and doing this?
I would say probably 15.
Okay. All right. So it was a pretty tight group.
Yeah.
So,
Even back then, our model, Nuco's model, is to fill in holes. Somebody call it needs. They sold 7. They've got 6. They need 1. They want to build a job. How can I get this thing built? I'll get it from Nuco. I sold 7. I have 4. Manufacturer is 4 weeks out. Nuco's got
right.
them. Let's get them filled in. That's really our niche. That's where we fit in.
Now, over the years, have any of these manufacturers, maybe you get a new vice president of sales or something happened like that where they said, well, why are we supporting this? Why can't we just go direct it? Have you run into these conflicts over the years?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of
Absolutely.
figured. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it will be, and they'll say, I don't get it. I don't know
Hmm.
why we need you. We do all this stuff ourselves. It's until they actually get to know their business and get to know their shortfalls, they don't necessarily appreciate how we soften or make their shortfalls go away. And it's gotten to the point now where we are very, very tight partners with them and they look and say, what else can we do with you guys? Because it's so smooth and it's seamless and it helps the distributors really thrive and do well with the line.
Well, I think it also helps them remain loyal to the brand. I mean, if they were getting crummy customer service and they weren't able to get things 4 weeks out and whatnot, which you're doing that bridging of that service, those service holes, it helps them stay in that brand rather than looking elsewhere.
I agree. Yeah. That way they don't have to, like you said, go to competition or re
Right.
engineer what they're doing. So,
Yeah, it helps quite a bit. I mean, I can
absolutely.
imagine. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So speaking of that smoothing of the customer service environment, if I could segue a bit here, the technology that you employ today is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's
Thank you.
pretty, yeah, it's unheard of. I mean, I would encourage anyone to go look at the website and look at the YouTube video following packages through your facility. I mean, it's fantastic.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
It is. So, Paul, when I first went and worked with you all, you did not have that at all. I mean, you were running fairly manual in your warehouses. What was really the catalyst for moving and really investing in some pretty substantial automation going in the organization?
Yeah. Substantial is the least of it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
No, no. As a company, we are very hard on ourselves. We really challenge ourselves. Our feeling is just because we're doing something one way does not mean that's the right way to do it. And around here, the worst thing you can ever say in a meeting is, well, that's because we've always done it that way. You'll get roasted.
Yeah,
it's
pretty
not,
much.
it's
Oh,
not,
yeah.
it's
Oh,
not,
yeah.
it's not good. Our first website was in 97, which was for our industry was very, very early.
Sure. That's bleeding edge stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, in our first e-commerce site so that we could actually do transaction was in 99.
Mhm.
That was really a game changer. And when we did our website, we wanted to provide an experience for our customers electronically to do virtually everything that they could do with a phone call with our sales team. They could do that electronically. So we tried to really look at it and say, all right, I'm distributor A and I'm looking for this. What do I need?
Mhm.
So we really used a lot of their input and our internal input and tried to build it in. So that really was a game changer with our reach to our customer base. Then it may have been when you had come out and I think challenged us some about the way we were doing things by the way, we don't have a warehouse, we have a distribution center.
Okay. There you go.
Warehouses, things go in and don't come out.
That's right. That's a storage place.
Distribution
That's right.
centers, things come in and go out. So,
There we
and
go.
that's another thing you don't to say here. But it truly opened our eyes. The way we inventoried items, the way we
Yeah.
measured ourselves, and that type of thing. So it absolutely challenged us to do better.
So, if I recall correctly, what was the name of the company that helped come in and do that?
Automation.
Yeah, the automation section. Yeah,
That company was Numina.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it worked extremely well. I mean, it really
Yeah.
did. And it actually, the other thing is that it allowed us to stay in our location for, I would say, probably another 7 to 9 years.
Easily. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. One interesting thing when they came in and started talking was about what we're going to do in the DC. And the one guy came up to me, he goes, "So tell me why we're doing this." And I said, I get it. I said, you want to know when you go talk to everybody, they're going to say, "So what are you doing?" He goes, "Yeah. Like, are you trying to reduce headcount or what is the purpose?" And I said, "This is easy." I said, "Just tell them we're trying to do efficiency so we can stay in this building and everybody's comfortable with it. We have no intention on reducing headcount." And at that, he was like, "Oh, this is going to be fun then," because he doesn't have
Mhm.
to be on the defensive on the questions he's asking.
And I think obviously change is very uncomfortable for people. It's always question, why are we doing something like this? And yeah, I think people then start fearing their jobs and fearing the livelihood
Correct.
going forward. So interesting. Yeah, I think just, again, one of the fascinating things when I spent some time once you had really got this thing humming, and it was only a few years ago that I really got a chance to see this automation in play. Just some of the things that just kind of blew me away. I mean, if I could just kind of tell a quick story, I recall watching one of the small packages going down towards the machine that adds the UPS label. And it paused before that. And most of them would flow in and they get the UPS label and keep moving, keep moving. But every once in a while, you'd see one stop for just a little bit longer than the others, and it'd be 2 or 3 seconds. And so I looked over at Scott, who was giving me the tour here. I said, "Well, what's going on here? Why is that stopping longer than the others?" And he said, "Oh, we're charging their credit card right there."
Yep.
And it just blew me away. I mean, Paul,
Yeah.
I stopped for a moment. I thought, wow, you guys are really serious about this. Is fantastic. I mean, it was incredible. And so I think, that level of technology, you just don't see that in a privately held distributor. You don't see that in a family business. I rarely see that investment in this type of technology going forward. So,
Yeah. The people that came before us challenged themselves,
mhm.
obviously, when they change industries. And we challenge ourselves to say, how can we be better? What can we do better? How can we do more? And again, our thing is never about reducing headcount. It's about how can we do better. We feel that we are definitely in a transaction. We are behind the curtain, right? Our job
Yeah.
is to carry out what we say we're going to do. Not only do it once, do it twice, but do it every time.
Mhm.
And then make our customers, the guys and girls that are at the counter, really shine to their contractor customers, because that contractor is going to come back in and that's going to be a difference maker. So for the distributor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you are solving problems and you're solving problems in a quick and efficient way. And I think that's really, you drive back into your distribution center looking at the technologies that you've employed. I mean, it was astounding how many small packages go out of the old facility. I'm not even talking about the new one, but out
Right.
of the old facility in a day. I mean, if I recall correctly, it was around at noon you had to switch trailers at
Yep.
that point.
We have changed where we direct feed into a 53-foot trailer. So yeah, when you watch it go, it's extremely gratifying.
Yeah.
All the work that goes into it.
Sure. Now, when did you move into the new facility? I know that you broke ground a while ago, but
Yeah. We moved into the new facility. So our sales and accounting, purchasing and all, we moved in October of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
We moved the DC. That was the big one. We did that April of 2019.
Okay, gotcha. I seem to recall I was in your office. We were talking about this. Where were you were going to move, and you had looked at different pieces of land and found a property, I think.
Yeah, we did. We had a search and probably took us, I would say about a year to find a building. We are 30,000 square feet of office and
Mhm.
115 of DC. So it's a big building.
It is a
It's
big
a big
building.
building.
Well,
Yeah.
now you can take advantage of all the automated carts and the lift trucks and all the cool fancy things that you all have invested in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the amount of automation that we do. We don't have robots, but we have the pick lists and the way we inventory and the logic that goes into how we inventory is it's incredible. There are way smarter people than me that do it.
That kind of stuff's phenomenal. And I am looking forward to taking a look at that next time I'm in the neighborhood. But you and I had talked just a little bit about this. When you were moving into this facility, there was a whole lot of challenges that popped their head up, and
Oh
you
boy.
just didn't have that on the list. So could you share a couple eye-opening moments or hair-pulling moments or things like that?
Lots of things turned out really well. There
Yeah.
were some things that did not. For example, I would give us an A moving out of our Downers Grove facility.
Yeah.
We did great. And honestly, it was a great team builder. We had everybody, customer support, marketing, everybody was out there doing it. It was really, really cool. When we moved in, so we're in here, and then we told purchasing, because we had obviously you want to try to reduce what you're going to move. So you're going to, buy a little less, and then we'll bring it in.
Right.
We told purchasing, go ahead and bring it in. Well, purchasing did an awesome job. because
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
because oh boy, the
Yeah.
dam let loose. And I would say some of our processes that we did in the old building, when you got to this much larger facility, in our minds they would work, but they didn't. So it really took us a while. I would say it took us, for example, at one point we had 300 skids of product to receive.
Mhm.
And so we really hit it hard on receiving, but I don't know why we didn't think of this. We didn't do such a good job in putting away so we could receive it,
Oh
and
no.
we'd go to ship and they're like, where is it? I'm like, I don't know. It's somewhere over here. But I would say after probably 2 difficult weeks that we were in pretty good shape.
Yeah, that's growing pains. I mean, that's not bad. I mean, those aren't deal killers. Those are just, man, I should have thought of that.
Well, like I said, all the meetings and everything else and the
Yeah.
flow charts and everything else, you're like, whoop, we missed that. So
Hmm. How's the team transitioned over? I mean, the people that were working in your DC before, they've got a little elbow room now. I mean, how are they feeling? Yeah.
it's really interesting because they have, like you said, I think that's a good way to put it, is they have elbow room, and how we do things is different. It's just
Yeah.
different because, like I said, again, with a much larger facility,
Hmm.
I can't see, hey, Bob, get that for me. You don't have that because it's too
Right.
far apart. So I think we have grown incredibly from last fall to now.
Yeah.
The technologies that we are using now are, quite honestly, I look at it and go, "Phew, it is really cool."
That's great. I mean, have you gone to like anything like voice picking, anything like that?
We have not done voice picking, but we do have handhelds.
Yeah.
So, and it will give the whoever's picking it a pick path.
Yeah.
And when you do it, you're like, this just makes total sense. So,
Sure.
and then, I mean, we're inventorying by velocity and the size of the product, that type of thing. So, for example, one of the things we are changing, because we thought it made sense,
Mhm.
we had our A, B, C's, and we had them up and down.
Okay.
Well, now we had somebody come in and go, no, you want to have your A's in the middle, your sweet spot. That's where you
Yeah.
want your
Yeah.
A's.
Yeah. There you go.
And they actually, after you go look at it, you're like, you know what? That makes sense. We are very good listeners. We don't claim to know everything, but we're good listeners.
I would absolutely agree. I mean, in knowing your company for that, for number of years now. That's one thing that you all will grab a nugget and say, okay, I'm going to figure out where does this go in?
We'll figure it out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's been a tremendous thing. Now, I will say you do have a lot of family members still in the company or involved in the company right now, don't you?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we have, I would say there are 14 of us.
Wow.
So, yep.
Always makes for interesting holiday conversations, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we are typically our wives pretty much will let us go for a little bit, and then we'll get the high signs, and we'll be like, okay, all right, we're done with that. So
time to move away from the family biz.
Yeah, let's talk about how the Bears are losing. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, my spouse and my brother, same thing. They were just like, okay, you got to stop. You have to stop this.
Mm-hmm.
This is not fun for us. So no, you will not be doing this, or you'll be doing it by yourself. One of the two.
Correct. But if you do it right, it can be very gratifying. And I've always said, who do you want in the foxhole with you? And, so the family members are the ones who, when your back's really up against the wall, they're the ones that they'll be there for you. So that and all our new employees, because we've grown so quickly as of late, but we have a lot of wily veterans like me. So
yeah, definitely.
I think we have 16 people that are over 20 years. So
that's pretty good. Yeah, I've seen, a number of them over the years, the same faces. And it's always a testament to, how well an organization functions is when you have people that do want to stay for a long time.
Correct.
And not just family members, not just the ones that are there because of blood. It's more because they really like what you're doing and they like the direction of the organization.
One of the other things that I think is really gratifying is when you see the tenured employees bring their family in.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the thing that you look at that and you're like, wow, that's really cool.
That is neat. I've seen that, throughout my family businesses, that next generation coming in, joining their parents in the organization. That's absolutely a great feeling, that just like, oh, okay, we actually are kind of walking the walk here. We are a family business. And, I'll say, that has always been my sweet spot. I love family businesses. I highly support family business. I want to see that thrive as much as humanly possible.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, hey, thank you so much for taking this time. I mean, we definitely, we hit all kinds of different topics. And, I love watching your company. I look at a company like yours and I just think, wow, from when I met you all to where you are today, I mean, it's really kind of mind blowing. And it wasn't all that many years. So I've been very impressed with your organization over the years.
Thank you. When I started in 80, though, so we were 6 people. And I think today we're about 170.
That's a lot of mouths to feed, my friend.
It's a challenge to know everybody's name, but I'm up to it.
Yeah, I know you are. So, well, again, Paul, thank you so much for taking the time with me. I really appreciate this. And, I look forward to getting a chance to come over and see the new place.
That would be awesome. We would love to have you.
All right. You take care.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider hitting that subscribe button. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area on your podcast application or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by Andrea Klunder and Edwin Ruiz at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, The Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.